A fire consumes Mercy Hospital in Davenport, Iowa. The Great Brinks robbery, where 11 thieves stole more than $2 million from an armored car in Boston, Massachusetts. And Walt Disney releases his 12th featured film, Cinderella. The year is 1950. And this year, the United States Line would build their flagship and is still the fastest ocean liner to go from Southampton to New York, the SS United States. But before getting into all of it, I'm your host Jay. Welcome to What It's Like, where we mostly cover lost and forgotten cars. Today it's a little bit different. But if you're into transportation history, subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. The SS United States was owned and operated by the United States Lines, which was a trade name for an organization of the United States Shipping Board Emergency Fleet Corporation, and was originally created to operate German liners seized by the USA in 1917. Fast forward to 1950, the SS United States was built with government subsidiaries and could be transformed into a troop-carrying ship if need be. The SS United States was designed by William Francis Gibbs, who started down a totally different career path, wanting to be a lawyer, but would switch course after World War I. He became a project manager in the restoration of the SS Vatertown, which the USA seized and was the largest ship in the world at one point in time. That ship would become Leviathan. In 1922, Francis would partner with his brother, Frederick Herbert Gibbs. The firm would go by the name Gibbs and Koch eventually, and they would go on to design a lot of World War II era warships and cargo ships. They also designed Liberty ships built by Henry J. Kaiser, as well as the Fletcher destroyer class ships. What Gibbs brought to the table was ships with efficient hull design, high fire standards, because a fire at sea was and is the biggest threat while at sea. Gibbs ships were built solid, light, fast, and safe. In the late 40s, Gibbs wanted to build the ultimate ocean liner. Let's stop there for a second and discuss the differences between ocean liner and cruise ship, because they are not the same. Ocean liners were designed for speed. Hull designs are sleeker, and they have a totally different profile. Was broken down into classes, first, second, third. Price on entry and things to do based on ticket price of class that you signed up for. Hull strength, swift transportation. A cruise ship prioritizes comfort over speed, slower speed overall. No classes, but they do have suites on some ships and some areas that if you want to spend extra money to get a better experience, you totally can. Cruise ships are generally larger. They're slow and leisurely sailing on a floating city, essentially. Anyway, in the late 40s, the Gibbs brothers were the leading promoters to get the US government and the military to subsidize the cost of building the ultimate ocean liner. As the story goes, right after World War II, the US Navy was to have a supercarrier, the USS United States, built. It was canceled after the keel was laid. The shipyard was looking to convert the project so the materials wasn't wasted, and would dismantle the aircraft carrier and build an ocean liner in the same dry dock. This would be the very first ocean liner to be built in dry dock, which would accelerate construction because a lot of the parts could be prefabricated and applied to the hull. The SS United States was a joint venture between the US Navy and United States Line. SS United States used a lot of aluminum in the construction process. The government would pay 2/3 the amount to build the ship, around $50 million of the $80 million total. The government was interested in subsidizing this project because it could be converted into a troop ship carrying 14,000 soldiers 10,000 miles without refueling, and gave the contract to Gibbs and Cox to design and supervise the build. So let's talk specs. SS United States, aka Big U, hull number 488. It was 990 feet long. The beam or width of the ship was 101.5 feet. Height from keel to funnel was 175 feet. Tonnage, 53,329 gross registered tons. Draft, or the amount of the ship that is under the water was 31 feet 3 inches, but the max could be 32 feet 4 inches. It was designed with 12 decks. Launched June 23rd of 1951. It was also christened that day, and it would be in service from 1952 through November 14th, 1969. It could hold 1,928 passengers and carry 1,044 crew members. Moving on to engine, the SS United States had two separate engine rooms, so if one was disabled for any reason, the ship could still function. 4 Westinghouse double reduction gear steam turbines, 8 Babcock Wilcock M-type boilers, 4 shafts, 2 propeller sizes, 2 with 4-blade and 2 with 5-blade made of bronze with a unique profile. Speed during sea trials was 38.32 nautical miles, which equates out to be 44.10 miles per hour. 43 nautical miles was the theoretical top speed in which the SS United States could achieve, which would be 49 miles per hour, which was and is fast for anything on the water. Fun fact, most cruise ships don't even go half that speed. SS United States maiden voyage was on July 3rd and lasted until the 7th in 1952 from Southampton to New York City, New York, which took the Blue Riband from the Queen Mary. The Blue Riband was an award for crossing the Atlantic Ocean the fastest. The Queen Mary held on to the record for 10 years. The SS United States did the crossing in 3 days, 10 hours, 40 minutes, at about 35 miles per hour average the whole crossing. So just a smidge over half throttle, besting the Queen Mary's time by 10 hours. The SS United States would hold both eastbound and westbound records. No other ocean liner has ever beaten that time. The SS United States was the fastest ocean liner, but it was built at the wrong time. When the SS United States was in her prime, the commercial airliner was just gaining traction and was faster, oftentimes cheaper, both in monetary cost and time, because time is the most expensive thing in the world. And the commercial airliner was, above all else, more convenient. Service began to decline, and that's the reason the United States was able to keep the Blue Riband for as long as it has. It's also important to note that the SS United States was the first ship made in the USA to hold the Blue Riband since the SS Baltic 100 years prior. Going back to a statement that I made a couple moments ago, the SS United States is the fastest ocean liner. No other ocean liner has ever beaten the record. But the eastbound record was broken in 1986 by Virgin Atlantic Challenger 2, and the westbound was broken in 1990 by Destrino. But those vessels were not passenger-carrying ocean liners, making the SS United States still the fastest ocean liner to ever make that crossing. The SS United States had a class-tiered system like ocean liners that came before it, each class having their own accommodations based on class, but could intermingle in various classes in the gym, pool, and theater. Capacity for first class was 894 people. First class cabin cost $350, which would be equivalent to you spending $3,971 in 2024. Next up was cabin class. There was 524 accommodations for cabin class. Tickets started at $220, which would be equivalent to you spending $2,496 in the year 2024. Tourist class, 554 accommodations for that class. $165 was starting ticket price, which would be equivalent to you spending $1,872 in the year 2024. Some fun facts about the SS United States. 4 presidents sailed on her: Harry S. Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and Bill Clinton. Leonardo's Mona Lisa also was transported on this ship. The SS United States would operate as an ocean liner from 1952 through 1969. The SS United States would bring in about $16 to $20 million. but then operation costs ballooned from 18 million to 26 million. Originally, the SS United States was making about $3 million profit a year, but as the ship aged, operating costs got higher until the point that they were operating at a $2 million loss a year. By 1968, she cost the United States line $4 million despite making stable revenue. Then came a series of unfortunate events with strike costs, union due increases, government subsidies decreasing, mismanagement, and lack of interest of traveling by ocean. Plus, on top of all of that, by 1969, the ship wasn't considered to be a spring chicken anymore, and talk of retirement began to swirl. On October 25th of 1969, SS United States returned from her 400th voyage and was to be completely overhauled in Newport News, Virginia, but by November 11th, the decision had been made to withdraw her from service entirely, which came as a total shock to all that served on her. When she was laid up in Virginia, she made 800 transatlantic crossings, 400 round trips, 2,772,840 nautical miles. In June of 1970, the ship was relocated across the river to Norfolk, Virginia. In 1973, USL, aka United States Lines, transferred ownership to United States Maritime Admin. In 1976, NCL, or better known as Norwegian Cruise Line, was interested in transforming the SS United States into a cruise ship, but United States Maritime Administration couldn't sell because of the propulsion system being classified by the United States Navy. Norwegian Cruise Lines would purchase the France instead, which was another ship named after a country that did nothing for her. The Navy would declassify the ship's design in 1977. Also in 1977, a group headed by Harry Kratz wanted to purchase the ship and make it into a hotel/casino, but nothing ever came of that. In the early 80s, there was talk of converting the SS United States into a hospital ship, but it was decided that that was going to be far too expensive. In 1980, the vessel was sold for $7 million to Richard Hadley, who wanted to turn it into a floating condo. In 1984, to pay creditors, the ship's fittings and furniture, which were still all intact up until this point, were sold off at an auction in Norfolk, Virginia, bringing $1.65 million from the auction. In 1989, the ship was relocated yet again to the CSX Coal Pier, Newport News, Virginia. Richard Hadley plans for the ship failed, and the U.S. Marshal seized the ship, put it up for auction. The ship sold for $2.6 million in 1992. The new owners wanted to refurbish the SS United States and put her back in service, running alongside the Queen Elizabeth II. On June 4th, 1992, she was towed to the Ukraine and underwent asbestos removal, which they totally gutted everything from the interior. The interior was stripped down to the bulkhead in a lot of areas. The lifeboats and davits were also removed in Ukraine. SS United States was towed back to Philly. Marma Marine would go bankrupt after paying to have all of the asbestos removed. In November of 1997, Edward Cantor would purchase the ship for $6 million. In 1999, also around 1999, the SS United States Preservation Society would have the ship placed on the National Register of Historical Places. In 2003, Norwegian Cruise Line would purchase the SS United States from an auction after Cantor's death, and things were looking great for the retrofitting of this liner. But by 2009, NCL changed their tune because the SS United States was costing them $800,000 yearly to keep her afloat. In 2009, SS United States Conservancy, which was the same organization as the SS United States Preservation Society, they just changed their name, would raise the funds to try to save her from being scrapped. In 2010, the SS United States Conservancy announced plans to develop a waterfront complex along the Delaware River. That plan would ultimately fall through when the Gaming Control Board voted to revoke the casino license. In 2010, the Conservancy would buy the SS United States from Norwegian Cruise Line for $3 million. Ideas of turning the ship into a complex was floated. Again, places like Philly and New York City were discussed. The ship went through periods of hope and then periods of gloom. The following years, just keep in mind, rent at Pier 82 in Philadelphia is $25,500 a month. By the end of October of 2015, the Conservancy began to contemplate scrapping her because they were hemorrhaging money, and trying to keep her was turning out to be a very expensive endeavor, but was able to raise more money to keep her out of any immediate danger. On February 4th of 2016, Crystal Cruise Line had plans of retrofitting the SS United States, but just like all of the previous plans, they would fall through as well. Pier 82 in Philadelphia, where the ship has been docked since 1996, decided to raise the rent out of nowhere from $850 a day to $1,750 a day. And they also had the gall to ask for $160,000 in back rent and claimed the SS United States was damaging the pier. A civil trial would ultimately take place in federal court, with Judge Anita Brody dismissing Penn Westinghouse ridiculous financial demands, but at the same time, she ordered the ship to be evicted in 90 days. On August 30th, Okaloosa County, Florida would purchase the SS United States. It has been decided that it will be sunk off the coast of Florida, making the world's largest artificial reef. It's going to be sunk close to Destin, Fort Walton, Florida coast, also in very close proximity to the USS O Canary, which was an aircraft carrier which was also sunk. Plans are to move the ship this Friday, November 15th. It's future me. They have postponed moving the ship. It's not entirely conclusive when putting this video up when they are going to move the ship, but they're planning on moving the ship to Mobile, Alabama to have the funnels removed, as well as other things. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is the final chapter? Do you think somebody's going to step in at the last second before they sink her? My final thoughts, I was going to break this down into a positive and negative segment, just like I do with all of the car reviews. But this is multifaceted, and you could look at this a bunch of different ways. The SS United States has been sitting in the elements for decades. The interior is gone. Engines will probably never work again. Some of her propellers are missing. It costs a fortune to keep her in the water. It was the best ship nobody seems to want. And ironically, everybody's willing to spend millions of dollars to go see the Titanic. The Titanic was more or less a failed design. It only lasted its maiden voyage, and it didn't even make it past that. I'll take it a step further and say that there's a lunatic over in China trying to build another Titanic. He's been trying to build this ship for the last 40 years, and why he just wouldn't take the SS United States and just retrofit it, not turn it into the Titanic. He could have had a real ocean liner, not the Team U Titanic. SS United States had a full career, and she was the best of the best. It's an iconic ocean liner, many believe to be the best ocean liner. Definitely the fastest ocean liner ever. And I personally can't believe the Conservancy, and I hate to be critical because they raised so much money to save this ship. It's almost unbelievable. But they spent close to over $8 million in the course of 30 years just by keeping her at Pier 82. I know that was $8 million over the course of 30 years. They didn't have the $8 million lump sum all at one time. It just sucks. There is so much potential for this old girl. Honestly, I would love to see the ship saved, and I guess this is my plea, and I wasn't going to keep this in here. I was going to delete it, but I think it needs to be said. I'm just a car enthusiast with a YouTube channel. But this ship has been back and forth. It's been through so much. I can't imagine why anybody can't just step in at the last minute and save the ship. Hear me out. Buy some property along the coast, whether that be in the ocean or bayfront property. My personal opinion, I think it should go back to Norfolk, Virginia, or New York City. Buy property there, whether it be in a harbor or oceanfront, and just bury the keel in the dirt. You won't have to pay docking fees. All you'll have to do is pay the taxes on the property, build a complex around it, and I'm sure if you reached out to Habitat for Humanity, they would love to come out and paint it. Hell, if you put ads up, I'm sure anybody would come out and paint it. You would be surprised, the people that just want to see the Big U put back to her former glory. It would be a great community service project for those that need community service work hours. It's 990 feet long. It's 12 stories tall. You could dedicate each level to something different. You could turn it into half a hospital. You could turn it into a school. You could open it up for offices. You could put condominiums in it. You could do literally anything with it. This is it. This is the only one left. It's worth mentioning that the SS United States did have a smaller sister ship called the SS America, designed by William Francis Gibbs as well, but it sold off, and it's a long story. But a long story short, the last company that had the America was towing it, and it bottomed out, hitting a rock in shallow water. Waves broke the ship in two. The stern deteriorated rather rapidly and sank. The bow section sat there for years. I find it very interesting on how the earth breaks down iron. I think it was about a decade and it was totally gone. SS United States, I think it might be the last ship left in the United States line that can be saved. And to sink that much real estate, it just seems like such a waste. If you got PPG to get behind it, I'm sure that that would be one hell of a sponsorship. But that's what I think. What do you guys think in the comment section below? All right, now it's time for Would You Rather. A bit different today. If you could travel on any one of these ships, which one would you pick? Normandy, or SS United States, or Leviathan? I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free to pause the video. On to the second scenario. Mauritania, SS United States, or Queen Mary. Once again, going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. On to Name That Tune. First person to get both the name of the band, song title, and the lyric that comes next will have their comment pinned to the top of the comment section. You need all three to get credit for this one. We've got tonight, baby. So looking for what comes next, lyrically, band, and song title for your name to be pinned to the top of the comment section. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this special edition episode. I hope you enjoyed it. In the comment section, should we do more ocean liners in the future? I'm open up to doing anything transportation related. I was going to do some steam engines maybe next year. Yeah, looking forward to feedback in the comments. And until next time, toodaloo!